Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 6th edition of All Things Talent webinar series by Naukri Hiring Suite. Naukri Hiring Suite offers a bouquet of new age solutions from brands like Naukri, Hirist, IMJobs, First Naukri, Zwayam, DoSelect, and eHire to meet all your recruitment needs. My name is Bruhadesh, and I lead the editorial and content here. And we're all super happy to have you join us on this Thursday evening, right on time. We have people slowly joining in. And as the numbers increase, we will start the introduction also. While we seem to be heading to the fag end of the pandemic and many companies are gradually opening up offices, we sincerely hope that you are staying safe and continue to take all precautions. The aim of All Things Talent webinar series is to bring together the HR fraternity, promote an environment of mutual growth, inspire HR professionals to develop as leaders by learning from the experience of industry stalwarts. It's a pleasure to have two esteemed panelists from the HR world today. But before I bring them in and discuss the topic, here are a few things to keep in mind about the webinar. We are starting at 5 sharp and we'll be ending by 6 p.m. We were lucky to receive so many questions through the registrations. I think there were like over 100 plus questions to both the panelists, and that through the questions, and we have a flow and structure in place. That being said, we will be doing a few live polls and we'll try our best to take live questions based on the availability of time. So the topic for today is one that is quite hot now: candidate experience, techies, and a lot of flood of job offers. Can a good candidate experience motivate techies to look beyond salary as the only criteria? This is just an example. I mean, even non-tech jobs. I mean, in fact, the experience of looking for a job is universally hated. It's a 24/7 activity. But at a time like this, particularly when typical recruitment process has gone for a complete overhaul, when companies are scrambling to attract top talent, improving the candidate experience should be employers' top priority when it comes to recruitment. It's no longer an afterthought. So, introducing our two leaders who have graciously accepted our invitation for this discussion are Sheetal Shetty, Chief Human Resource Officer at Infra.Market. Hi, Sheetal. Sheetal is driving the company's efforts by recognizing and rewarding performance, creating empowering opportunities for employees, thereby delivering successful business outcomes. She has over 2 decades of expertise across sectors. She works towards strategic leadership, aligning HR practices to fuel growth. She also spearheads mergers and acquisition from early due diligence to consummation. She leads the implementation of best practices, skilling initiatives, designing, transforming, and revamping the HR lifecycle, thereby aligning it with business strategy and culture building. She has held senior leadership positions in companies including Taj Hotel, Johnson & Johnson, and Edelweiss Group. Our next panelist is Sebastian Rodriguez, Vice President and Global Head, Talent at Netcore Cloud. Sebastian leads the Netcore Cloud talent function. He has been part of the company since 2015. He is responsible for building the next generation task force. He supports Netcore's talent acquisition function with his expertise in human resource and talent acquisition, both in India and worldwide. In the past, he has held several leadership positions in Inventor's Knowledge Solutions, GTL Management, and Datamatics Global Services. Before jumping into the status check, I think we have close to most of them are joining slowly. So let's jump into the questions. Sebastian, I want to start with you. I mean, considering tech and angle to the entire candidate experience is more crucial at the time like this. What does candidate experience mean to you? How do you manage it at Netcore Cloud?
Thank you so much, Bruhadeeswaran. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Welcome, Sheetal, and welcome to all of you here for taking time out to listen to us. Hopefully, people who heard me before would know that I, try to keep the jargon out, but try and keep me, focused, maybe, and give you as much as I can from my, experience, so that it makes more sense to you. There's some learning, at least at the end of the day, maybe you can come back with some, learning. So when it comes to candidate experience, right? So I'd like to maybe make a slight change there. let's look at experience. So, what is experience? It's from the Latin term experier, which also is the basis of the word experiment, right? So when you say experiment, experience, it means doing the same thing again, doing some different things again and again to figure out how will it actually turn out to be, right? So it's an experience. So we've been all learning over the years. So the reason why we are here is to probably learn from maybe my experience, maybe from Sheetal's experience, and how could we make it a better experience for the people. But again, anything that you do with a candidate is going to be an experience, right? So whether it's good or bad. So I'd like to probably tweak it a little and add a prefix to it. We call it a positive candidate experience, right? Because everything is an experience. We want to make it a positive candidate experience. So how do you go about doing that, right? So when you look at, for us in Netcore, or for any organization for that matter, what I would say is experience, the whole positive candidate experience starts right from the time the brand comes into the picture, right? If the moment a candidate hears about Netcore, right, that's where the whole experience has to start. If they hear about Netcore, if they hear about the company, and they hear that, okay, this is a great place to work in, this is an ideal environment for us to. So that feeling has to be created right from your branding perspective itself, right? So that's the first touch point. And then you move along various, the entire journey. So the next would be the recruiter's, outreach, the email that you send, or the job description that you have out there, which talks about the job. So that has to create a positive experience too, right? So that has to feel, when somebody reads it, they feel that, okay, yes, this is the place that I want to join. And then we move on to, so what happens is, generally people tend to focus on only the actual tangible, the reactions that happen, the whole interactions that happen. Okay, candidates come in, can we give them a good experience at the time of the interview? Can we give them a good experience at the time of the offer and the onboarding? Well, it starts way before that. That's what sets your mind in the right, their mind in the right place, feeling positive towards the organization. And then we look at the process at each stage, and that's where we need to give them the right kind of feedback, the right kind of attention, try to, squeeze the process a little, maybe make it simpler so that people end up having a great positive. So that's what we do. Maybe we can talk more on it as we. So does this answer your question, Bruhadeeswaran? I lost you for a bit.
Yes. Muting problem again. I want to understand the same question from Sheetal. I mean, you're a 5-year-old company and part of essential services, and on top of that, startup has a different perception in the market again. So, can you just give a little background about the talent requirements, or what kind of a different talents that Infra.Market deals with for different segments, and what does candidate experience mean to you?
First of all, thank you so much for introducing me. That was a very lively explanation, and it took me back to my career journey. So thanks for that. And I think I have a great audience, and I heard a lot about it in your previous sessions also. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, your question is very interesting, and we have been discussing about this previously also. I think that today's world, today's gen, and today's times basically takes us into a very different era, So when I joined this organization, Infra.Market, it was completely unlearning what I had learned, because one, the industry teaches you a lot. And secondly, the kind of the people, the candidates who approach us teach you a lot. And that learning journey, I feel, has been extremely vibrant, especially over the last 2 years. The COVID times taught us a lot. So the entire experience, there has been a huge change. And I can see and feel the change every day, because today, if you want to attract talent, it's clearly about how easily you are getting them ingrained into what you really are. So if you want to attract good talent, you have to have a very transparent view of the organization, the challenges of the organizations, the weaknesses of the organizations, the strengths of the organizations, and exactly getting them closer to reality. So, upselling the organization or upselling a role to a candidate, I feel that trend doesn't work anymore. It's exactly how you make the candidate feel comfortable, more confident about the job, and create an experience that he would like to be a part. Also, I think as an HR professional, over the years, what I feel is that, whether it was the Tatas or whether I was working with Johnson & Johnson, the brand spoke a lot, and then you attracted people. In today's young organization like Infra.Market, and I'm making it a more generic statement, in spite of the fact that today people are looking out for jobs, I think there is a lot of accountability on the HR people, because it's not about attracting an employee or a candidate. It's about attracting a career. And I think the association with the candidate starts exactly from there. What do you expect the person to deliver? And how closely you get him to the culture of the organization, the tensionality of the role, all of that plays a very important part, So if you want to talk about an experience, it fairly starts at the time the candidate applies to you, and how transparent, how open you are about getting that person closer to the organization. So if I were to explain it in one line, it's not about the organization picking up or selecting the right candidate. It's also about how HR does not allow the candidate to make a wrong choice. And if that happens, then you can claim as an HR that you have attracted the good talent, the right talent for your industry. So I think the experience is a lot about the insightful and the transparent approach you have. Let it be a conversation, give him the ease, give him the comfort, and ensure him that you are attracting him to an organization which basically gels with his aspirations, career aspirations. I think upselling trends are kind of moving out, and the onus on HR to basically build that talent pool is largely increasing. And of course, post the COVID times, people are very insecure. People are not at all confident whether the move is going to be the right one. Organizations have changed their business plan. The economies are driving various decisions. And in such a scenario, it's even more vital that we take accountability as HR to attract the person, attract the talent, and give him an ease of settling down in an organization. And that's my view, I think, to your question.
Before going to the next question, I actually want to inform the audience that we will be taking questions also. So any kind of a questions that if you want to address to any of the panelists, please feel free to drop the questions that to it's open. Direct messages can be sent on the chat box, chat window. Please feel free to type new questions. I think that's a valid point. I mean, interesting that big brands themselves has kind of an attraction. As a startup, you would have that kind of a difficulty, and you build that kind of a brand from the first interaction as you move along with the candidate. That's fantastic. I think most of the startups which are able to do that kind of succeed in getting the right talent, and we've seen how Amazons or Flipkarts earlier in their career kind of attracted the right talent. Made a huge difference for them. So as we kind of get the questions going also, we will have a quick poll to understand which are the significant elements for a successful candidate. Can we have the poll on live, please? So and this is something which I'm a little curious to understand itself, like what makes for a successful candidate experience. I mean, what are the significant elements? I'll give some 10-15 seconds for people to respond to this question. Let's see what is the response being. All the above is kind of leading all through. I'm really glad on us on Thursday evening that we have 100+ participants who are like.
See the results as well of the poll?
Just a minute. I'm just giving another. Okay. Yeah, I will be sharing it. So I'm just giving another 5 seconds for people to respond. People are still responding. So. Yes. Can you see the results?
Yeah.
So this is the results we have. I think most of them, 65% kind of agreed that all the 3 elements are important. But next to that, communication. I mean, I thought all this goodies is going to be a lot of difference. Like several startups have been promising a lot of joining bonus, those kind of facilities, tickets, bikes, whatever. But I think communication comes second, which is actually a healthy practice, I think. So what is your observation? Sheetal, you want to go first?
Lots of observations actually, Abru, but the thing is that People may say communication, but let me tell you, all of it matters. The empathy by which you actually converse, I think that's your communication is very vast. So let me just narrow it down slightly. I think today's times, people want that they should know exactly where they stand. They want to know exactly the comfort of operating, especially this post coming backstage to office, how comfortable they are. There needs to be a balance between their family comfort, which they are leaving and coming back to the organizations. They need to be spoken about. There's a reassurance there. And whether we like it or no, and I saw one of the questions come up also, insecurities about their jobs. Insecurities do happen about their jobs because, like I said, that there are so many changes in the organization's style of functioning. So, how do you basically communicate to the question and the poll which you received? The communication needs to be all around the comfort which the candidate, the employee is actually looking for. It needs to be around telling him that you matter to us. And these things have always been there. They have always been communicated. But today their importance suddenly is on the rise because people want to feel. And the trend which I'm seeing in Infra.Market, and of course, we're a young organization. We attract people who have passion to be over here. They work like entrepreneurs. They work like with ownership. But yet, when they come to us, they do not move for compensation. They are moving with the kind of the career options, the comfort which you are giving them, the way you address their questions, the way you approach them. I think that's a very, very important experience. And therefore, I think communication is topping the list largely because people want a comfort to their insecurities, a comfort to come back and address their careers, and we owe it to them, clearly.
Sebastian, you want to observe?
Yeah, maybe I'll add a few more things. So, in today's time, while, most of them have all answered all of the above, which is very much true, and communication is key. In fact, a lot of, exit poll, interviews that we've been doing has also found that communication breakdown has been the major reason for people leaving organizations, because this whole pandemic and the environment, people not being able to talk to each other. So communication in different forms, right? From between team members and manager to, colleagues and all of those things. It's just, we've seen that communication has definitely played a major role, or lack of communication rather, has played a major role in making people move off and, things like that. Having said that, in today's time, in an age of personalization, right? Netcore has some personalization products. So I'm just doing a little bit of branding here. But, in this age of hyper personalization rather, right? It is important that you figure out what is it that the candidate is looking for, right? So some people may say communication in the experience part, some may say tech stack. So because I'm sure all of our, most of our audience, I'm sure, are all esteemed, HR folks. So, and I know how HR people like communication, right? So, which is why I'm sure, that poll is a little skewed where everybody's taking communication. But if I had an audience of engineers here, they would have all said tech stack, because we've been hiring a lot of tech people. So, one of the biggest things that we use to attract them is the tech stack that we have. So I guess it'll be to each his own. We will have to personalize it. So while, all of the above is important, the HR managers today, the recruiters today will have to personalize the value proposition to the candidate. So, if something like a tech stack is, matters to him, you should do that. Communication is something that has standard across for all levels. You have to start talking to them, communicating with them. So I think that's something that I'd say.
So I just want to dig deeper a little on this. Actually, you're right. We do have an audience bias here, but since most of them have chosen communication as the prominent factor, how better has it improved in the last 2 years? Do you think that even more could be done? I understand that HR donning different hats are increasing the communications these times, but is there a scope for more?
So I'll take that, Sheetal. I'm not sure if there's scope for more, because there's a lot of talk going on by on death by Zoom and death by whatever. So when the whole pandemic happened, there was way too much communication. If you see, HR guys were with the whole new situation that we were faced with, we said, okay, we have to connect with these guys. So we set up sessions for them almost every other day, and finally the guy said, "Will you please let us work? You're trying to communicate way too much, right?" So this is more from an employee experience point of view that I'm saying. So yes, so communication, we try to pick it up. but somewhere, the right kind of communication, the more, the whole chai pe charcha, the camaraderie that you found when you're in office, all of those, that the informal communication is probably what broke down a little bit, right? So I think, yeah, we could definitely do better on that. And that's it. Shruti, maybe you can add anything more if you want.
For us, I think the situation was a little different. Communication took a different form, and it was not standard about how much you're communicating. So while the whole world probably was dealing with the pandemic, I think at Infra.Market, I can say that, the speed and the agility just didn't stop. It was a communication, but the communication was a great communication. We didn't just speak about actually how comforting you are in your environment, but we said and reassured and created an environment where they would like to step out probably with the precautions and probably manage the situation. I think the agility of working from home, the smartness and training your people, how do you communicate while you're sitting at home? How do you manage your business and your career and you upgrade your development from that perspective? I think all this played a lot of role. So communication, yes, I would say was divided into two parts. One was giving them the assurance things will get good soon, things will get better soon. Communication to basically reassure that we are with them. And the other part, and the technically business aspect was your career doesn't wait till the pandemic is over. How do you upgrade your skills? How can we help you learn during this time? Teaching the HR people non-HR and teaching the non-HR people about HR, I think use this opportunity a lot. So, so that the speed, the pace of the organization doesn't slow down. I think that was clearly what we would like to communicate, because I did not want a stage where in a lifespan of an employee, he feels he's lost that 1 year or 2 years, So life is the same. But with this pandemic, nothing changes, Your career doesn't take a break for 2 years. We are there with you, I think the communication pattern from that perspective changed. And I think universally all HR was battling with exactly what do you communicate? Because half the time we were lost and trying to learn ourselves. And the second half was on how do you design your communication around the comfort level. But I think it was a great experience because you revamped your thinking, your design to what you want to bond. How do you want to communicate? Completely changed. And I think this was a good change, if you ask me. The situation was bad, but the change was good. And the management of the change, which many of us picked up, even our business leaders, I think they did a fabulous job in partnering with HR, in communicating, in meeting expectations, helping and supporting its employees. And I think I hear a lot of companies doing it. You have a lot of other organizations we partnered with. We went out and extended and used our network actually to help out people. So it was a game changer, if you ask me, the last 2 years. And coming back to our original topic of experience for a candidate, I think the bonding of the candidate started right from there. That taught us exactly what an experience in the true sense actually means. So, that's the way I think I would go by your poll. But yes, though we are saying that communication is the second best, it seems like an easy way out. Everything matters. The facilities which you give them, the ease and the ergonomics you provide for them, all of this actually really matter. People have been nice enough to respond by saying communication only because it was like a forced choice. But definitely all of these things, the facility, the way you manage your tech stack, the way you manage your communication, plus many more other things, the counseling, the empathy which is shown to them. I think all of this matters. So your options could be 3. But if I were to reply back and if I had an open choice, I would add to this list. And this is reality. And the candidates, the people whom we approach, the people who approach us, they have taught us a lot on exactly what they need and how we can be better HR professionals. At least my 2 years have been phenomenally, very, very learned in terms of what and how we need to change our approach to attracting talent.
I just have one follow-up question because, this, I think the massive job profile and hiring has been mostly by startups, of course. I mean, barring the later part of the year when there is the economy opened up with a lot of tech jobs. But how do you, I mean, when you keep a communication channel very open and transparent, obviously you'll also come across questions about job security and everything. And from the potential candidates, how do you address that?
So I guess the question is for me.
Do you follow?
Yeah. So, the performance matrices don't change. So I'm sure that every person who's a professional understands that your performance measurements, your performance matrices, your expectations don't change. No company rewards for efforts. You reward for outcomes. And I think that's very, very clearly understood. Also, organizations like ours are very perceptive to the risks people have taken during these times, the extra effort they would be putting in by putting in larger and longer hours from home, they recognize. And all of this forms a part of their performance outcomes. But definitely, there is not going to be any compromise from a outcome or a performance matrice perspective. That stays, and that's very natural to stay. Finally, you are not into a business of charity. You are here because you would like to develop people for business outcomes. So clearly, the dynamics or the foundation of why we are here doesn't change.
So we have a lot of questions. One of them is that, could you talk about a couple of employer branding activities happening at your respective companies? Sebastian, you want to start?
So, sure. So I thought there were some who had asked a few questions before that too. I think you answered the job security bit now,
correct.
But maybe I'll take that a little bit and then I'll come down to Sahil's question. Right. So when you talk about job security in today's times, I think we do handle that by talking about what the company has been doing. So it's all organization specific, right? So if there is insecurity in the company, if the company is not doing well, you've got to be honest and you've got to tell them that things could be shaky, right? And it's the choice that the candidate makes whether he wants to take it or he doesn't take it. But if you're in an organization that's doing well, growing by the quarter and doing pretty well, then that's something that you can communicate. So what we generally do is, my team talks to the candidates about what we've been doing over the past couple of years. Even during the pandemic, we've hired close to over 200 plus people. Quarter and quarter, the numbers are growing. So when we give them these kind of stories and and we talk about not having fired anybody, even given increments during this period, so that automatically gives them the security that they need, right? A lot of people talk about, oh, that's a place that we want to be working in, right? If that's the kind of, and they can go back and check with any of the employees and figure out that these are things that are actually true. So as long as there's transparency, there shouldn't be an issue about job security. But if there really is a problem about job security, then I think the HR person owes it to the candidate today to let them know, because they will find out eventually. It's just a matter of a day. On day one, he joins in and he says things are not fine, right? So transparency will help solve that. Okay, so coming back to Sahil, from an employer branding activity, I don't know if, people who are looking for jobs will end up watching this video of us, and and this could add up to the employer branding activities that we're doing, right? But of course, there's a lot of outreach that we do as an organization. So when we do a lot of early talent hiring, we do a whole lot of sessions in colleges and campuses. We have our founders going and talking about, Netcore and our, upcoming IPO and all the wonderful things that are happening for our startup journey and all of that. So that's a lot of branding so that's one activity that you can, think of. We've also set up something called the Netcore University, where we actually teach marketing MBAs, actually marketing automation, right? So a lot of people talk about digital marketing, a lot of people talk about marketing as a whole, but MBA colleges don't teach marketing automation, which is the niche that we are in. So we've set up Netcore University, where we go to colleges and we do a certification course for fresh graduates. So that is actual branding that we do for our organization from a at a grassroots level. So all these upcoming marketeers who move out to our potential customers, they already know the tool, they already know the product, they already know what we can do. So that's one other activity. And then, of course, most of the other things that we do are standard when it comes to, the press and the media and all of that. I think every other company does it. So these are two things that I could think of right now. But yeah, if I think of more, Sahil, you can reach out to me and I will give you more such inputs.
So, Sahil, he's available and very active on LinkedIn also. So reach out to him. And Sheetal, I want to ask you that, do you see a shift in the candidate expectations?
Yes, I think I've touched upon this even earlier, but I would say expectation is largely about empathy, how well you are able to relate to them. And the challenge for HR has been it's different strokes for different people. People who are your employees and people who are expecting to become your employees. Both, they need to be treated with different strokes. So sometimes the benefits are important to a person, sometimes the work timings are important to people. And I think here in Infra.Market, and actually that's been my style as an HR in any case, but you build your processes and your policies largely what people want. So, I do not like the approach that HR decides these are going to be your processes and policies, and we have to follow them. The employees, you have to cascade it down. My approach is a little different. Policies are meant for the users and the people. And therefore, it's very important that the people help you decide how do you want to carve out your employee handbook or your policies. And I think a lot of moderations, a lot of changes in approach, feedback, pulse surveys, all of these have taken a huge forefront in terms of understanding how we want to design a lot of the work which we do in HR. I had a couple of things as an agenda, and that had to be put back as a later priority, only considering that people thought something else was there. So expectations, definitely, yes, they have changed dramatically. People are looking for security. People want to talk. They have been alone with their wife and children and parents, seeing so much that they want to come back to work and they want to talk. And I think listening is one art which I think most of us require to develop. And HR is a great shoulder, if you ask me. The Infra.Market, the team which I have in HR, I think they are great, absolutely great in the way they are giving that listening shoulder to the employees. And I think that's what builds about the brand of the organization. So I heard you say somewhere, branding the organization. I think our founders as an organization, becoming a unicorn, becoming more tech savvy, moving into a different business model completely, the kind of the growth pattern we have seen, growing 16x every quarter, growing, every year we are measuring, not measuring, but every quarter we are measuring our performance. All of this, it's such a nice success story that the passion just builds up. So when I'm looking at a candidate, I'm not looking at a candidate who is necessarily competency driven. I request, and I always ask my team, pick up talent who's passionate, who has the ability to match our speed, because speed and agility is something we are doing here. And I think this expectation is creating a new HR, developing a new HR model, I would say, in this organization. And I'm loving it because I'm learning along. I haven't done this before. This is a new expectation. And yes, the new expectation of the candidate is teaching us. So it's going beautifully,
I really like the way you mentioned about, shoulder to cry on, empathy and all of that, HR being multiple roles. My next question, basically Sahar has asked in the chat box, tech-enable HR processes are taking away the personalized employee experience and moments of truth. Is it a good change? I mean, tech is replacing a bit of a HR personalized touch. So he wants to know if it's
Sebastian would like to go through it. I read the question. I was very keen to answer that time itself. Let me tell you, there is absolutely no replacement to a human touch. Technology will always be improving. Technology will always play a patent role, but that's to basically enable us. Technology is an enabler. It doesn't replace people. So if you see your desktops and your laptops and your, all the assets which you have a depreciating value. It's only your people which have an appreciating value. I think this is a very clear statement and a confident statement that I can make that no technology has the power, however good it is, to replace a human touch. And as an HR professional, there's no chance I would believe in it. I look at technology as an enabler. We are very hell-bent on ensuring it. And for an example, we are looking at having bots. So our policies are answered by bots so that we reduce the interactive time answering to certain queries of the employees so that we have better time to bond with them. So technology as bots would be there, but that's not to actually take away the time for the employees, but to actually attribute a more quality time to the employees. So I do not know from whom the question was, but then good question, but reassuring you that I do not think technology has the power to take away the human touch. No chance.
So
I'd like to add to that, Drew. So, a few years back, around 3 years back or so, Netcore actually won an award by Randstad for, tech in HR, right? So it was because we had created a bot which was answering HR queries. A bot called Niva that we had created was actually taking care of all HR. What are your leaves? What are your this? It was very interesting. People could have conversations with them. But that was at a time when, there was nothing like a lockdown or whatever. Maybe it would have been more relevant now. But even back then, I remember, very good answer, Sheetal. So I did mention that you can't take the human out of, HR. So while all of this is good, this should just make it easier for the HR person otherwise handling all these queries to go out and meet people, talk to them, and generally be the shoulder. Not necessarily don't give them reasons to cry, but yeah, at least be a shoulder around. Okay. So yeah, I think tech enables HR.
True. I mean, while we are in the conversation of tech in HR aspect, I mean, it's also invariably related to the employee experience you're generating. So, which is also incidentally our question for the next poll. We are halfway through. I think we have 120 people with us. Let's use this time to get their answers on what they think about this. Can I have the next poll? So which of the below options are relevant to your organization in today's context? Candidate experience, employee experience, both, neither of them. So I'll just give 10-15 seconds for everyone to comment on this answer. We have 80% saying both. And we also have
neither.
Neither is just one.
Good. I'd like to meet that person.
So we have. Can you also see the poll results live?
No, we can't. We can just see the poll, not the results.
Okay. So we have over 75% of them responded, and I'll just share the results.
Yeah, I can see it.
You can see the results?
Yeah, your 80% says both.
Yeah.
Right. So actually, are they still polling or we're done?
We are done. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, Sheetal, I'd like to go on this. The whole idea about having this question here is, candidate experience, employee experience, while everybody says both, which of course is, obviously the right answer. And, someone saying neither, which is also probably not wrong, because maybe, which is why I said I need to speak to that person to understand his, thought process. Because a few years back, even I would have said neither. Maybe not quite a few years back. Maybe way back in, 1996, right? That I think 97 is when Naukri started. 96 is when I started doing recruitment, right? So in those eras, I mean, in that time, there was nothing like candidate experience. You would have a JD which would say that people would be, if you don't qualify, you'd be summarily rejected. There's nothing like somebody getting back to you and trying to. So there's nothing like a candidate experience or an employee experience. You just had to go in and work, and there was nothing. Right now, there's a lot of importance being given to that, and there's the other end of the spectrum where maybe we're giving way too much of importance to, right? I think there is a right mix that we have to give, where people, sometimes I think I saw a lot of questions where candidates are only looking at money and not taking multiple offers. So that is where, I think as HR folks, all of us should collectively also put a stop to, needless pandering to these, such kind of job seekers, right? So the whole idea is to, while we go all out for candidate experience and employee experience, we have to draw the line somewhere, which is why I said, neither was one. So that whole poll question was such that, both is like a coalition, right? In an election. So, the parties get together, but neither is more like an independent candidate who comes and divides the vote, but there's only one guy who did that. But the whole idea is we have to draw a line somewhere. Candidate experience is important, but since we are all, from the HR fraternity, I can say this openly that we need to draw the line. Experience is important. Drawing the line is even more important, which is why when people look at only salaries, only certain benefits that they are crazy about, and use it to shop around the place, I think we need to draw the line there.
But do you want to touch upon more on the aspect of the shopping or an aspect? I think there are multiple questions only on that, particularly when registration, and even here, I think several of them are asking the same question addressed to you.
Right. Which is what I said. So I think there was Ananda who asked me, and I think a couple of others. Yes. So which is why I took this opportunity to say that we need to draw the line somewhere. Candidates will try and push. So again, so when I go back to my old answer of personalization, right? So I tend to normally put it in a manner where, right, if you're 25 or maybe below 30, then you should be looking at learning and opportunity and the role and all that. As HR folks, we say, okay, don't look at money, don't look at just look at the role and the opportunity. But I tell my team, we normally talk to candidates and say that, okay, or we look at somebody, if he's a 25, 21-year-old who's only looking at money, then he's just crazy about money. But money is important to everybody, right? So, but you should be able to define what is important at what stage of your life. Right? If there's a guy who's probably a single earning member, with a large family he has to support, and he's at 25 and he's looking at money, then I think it makes sense for him. He's governed by his own needs and situations or whatever that might be. But if somebody's at 35 and 40, I think he needs to start thinking about money seriously anyway. I would say that. So we need to be able to define. So we don't want to use a single scale and say, right, people are crazy, they're all looking for money. That's just not done. It is, of course, a candidate-driven market now. So we need to know where to draw the line. But if somebody needs the money, we give him the money. If somebody needs something else, but we should have our own value proposition, which is, like Sheetal said earlier, it's not always about the money. Right? There are other things that matter, and we should be able to showcase that to them. And I think a good candidate experience will help you do that too. So going back to some question about people dropping out and all of that. So a candidate experience which talks about all the USP that you have makes a whole lot of difference in terms of getting people to accept the offer. So for example, this is one other practice that we follow, right? We have something called a career conversation that we do. And so when somebody is looking for a job, usually the organization and as HR folks, we all decide that we need to figure out if the guy is right for us, right? But we also need to give the candidate a choice to make whether we are the right choice for them. And once this match happens is when, there shouldn't be a dropout then in that case. So we have a career conversation with them and look at their reasons for joining Netcore, their reasons for taking up this offer. What are the various parameters they're looking at? And like I said, some things attract to some things don't. There are times when I've told people that they should not take this up. Maybe this is not the right time for him to take a move because it's not adding up to his aspirations. And we tell them once they do take up the offer, we say it's a two-way street. Right? Both of us are responsible for making these, getting these expectations managed. So even if it's 1 year down the line, if things are not adding up to what we spoke in the beginning, you can come back to us. So these kind of career conversations help candidates realize that we are a company that cares and we are looking at, both sides of the coin and we want both the sides to, have a successful marriage. And I think that helps in reducing backouts quite a bit. And we've had cases where people have come back with testimonies saying that, it was that conversation that made a difference. It wasn't that you were just hiring or selecting or just, figuring out whether I'm the right guy. You gave me a choice. You gave me enough information to tell me that you're the right choice too. And that's why we decided to take it up. Right. So I think that does make a difference.
So I think it's going to be a job seekers market for a couple of quarters, like you pointed out. I mean, it's going to be such instances are going to repeat again. So this is one of the question we received as part of the registration, which I would like to check with you. I mean, because of the job seekers market, also we end up. I mean, the HR end up speaking with a lot of folks for a particular role, and so there was this particular question about how many did you hire during the pandemic remotely, and the one thing that will make or break the candidate experience. I mean, Sheetal, Sebastian, you want to take this?
So I'll go for this. How many people did we hire? Yes, 1,000 plus. Okay, so that was the hiring because we are on a growth trajectory. So you can say you're a young organization and you're in the essential services. So probably yes. But I think more so when you create an opportunity, You do not know who's going to make it, because we hire people from different industries. Our model, business model itself is extremely versatile. We are into the RMC business. You have stocks and barrels, and we attract technology people. So the value proposition for each kind of person whom we are attracting, for each business vertical, could be different. But it's not about whom we attracted. To your question, how many did we? What's the talent ad? 1,000 plus, fine. But what's more important is that for us, it's very important whom we did not select. And I think when we speak about experience, it matters a lot about those people we haven't selected. How do we basically inform them that why they are not right? I've had situations when there has been a performer who's been an excellent performer in another organization, and we have rejected the candidate, not because of the competency, because the speed would not suit his career. We didn't want him to take a wrong career move, and that's the support which we give. And I think people whom you do not select are equally important to you, because they are your brand ambassadors. You're contributing to their career. I think that's a very critical part. And the second aspect to this I would like to add is that clearly we do not hire for compensation, because there is no limit. You have many people asking their people to stay back. You have people who give them counter offers. You have people who actually do job hopping and job shopping, but that's not exactly the kind of the people we want. We want people who want to come and build your careers. I think our concentration over the last 1 year has been on rewards and recognition. How do you create an environment that you come, you perform, and don't worry on the rewards, I'll take care. HR and your managers are there to take care of you. And today, let me tell you how much a candidate would need a job change or a career change. Equally, an organization needs people who can perform. So it's not about a role. It's about how people think their role is their business. And if they think it's their business, there will be performance. And I do not think any organization, at least I can speak confidently about Infra.Market, would flinch in actually rewarding that. So compensation, it's the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart. And I think we are very clear what we want to be. So compensation is not a puller. If a candidate is joining for compensation only, then clearly that's not the candidate for us. Like Sebastian very rightly put, it matters. Money matters. And clearly, we would like to weigh the options in terms of giving a decent hire, a decent increase, a decent escalation in the compensation, but hire for the role, watch the performance, give various options, a versatility and the options in a job, rotate the job, give options.